that was the last time I saw him ever in person. Welcome back to MidnightO2 Season 3, Episode 6. This is your host, Amy. Today, I'm here to tell a bedtime story. So, for the first time, right? I know I always call myself a storyteller, and I never told you my personal stories. But I feel like if you've read some of my poetry in the articles, then you'll get like a sneak peek of what my stories are about. But today, it's probably the first time ever that I'll be talking about this. Oh my gosh. Okay. I'm like nervous at the same time, anxious. I'm not sure if I should. Okay, here. I'm just gonna say it. This episode is dedicated to someone that I really, really, really liked when I was in high school. So, if you're like my high school friend or high school classmate, yeah, you can ask me who he is. And let's just hope that he wouldn't just click this episode. I doubt he even knows I'm doing podcast. He probably knows, but I doubt he'll click in. So, if you do like, hi. Okay, here's the episode. This is a guy I liked for 3 years. And I only had like 2 classes with him or something. 1 or 2, I think. And I remember like sitting next to him and thinking like, oh my god, he's so cute. You know what I would do? When there's like syllabus that needs to be passed around, I would like draw a smiley face on it and just pass it on to him. So he probably knew that I liked him for like all this time. And just a little bit of background information here. We don't really talk on a daily basis and we really don't interact that much. But why do I like him? I just did, you know. If I sound like a teenage girl, that's because I was back then. Like, imagine he's like more than a crush in my heart. This sounds so cringy. Oh my gosh. Uh Why am I even talking about this? But yeah, like he was someone that was very studious. I've always been into quote unquote nerdy guys who was really good at studying, good grades and everything. He was really quiet and shy. But you know what he always did to make me really happy? He probably did this unconsciously. So I'll be sitting next to him, be like, oh, it's kind of bright today, you know, like the sunshine. And then he would like listen to me and then just got up and adjust the window curtains. And I was just thinking to myself, like, oh my God, he's so nice. You know, it's like totally meaningless action. But it's always the little detail that gets me. Still until today. Yeah. And I was just like, oh my god, he's so nice, he's so sweet, and he just doesn't say much. And during like break times, we would just draw on syllabi. I thought that was pretty cute, and I wanted to keep all the papers with all our drawings on them. I just thought it was something for me to keep. I don't know, this sounds so weird and cringy, but guys, this was in high school. That's probably why. And then story time. So, there was senior year of high school, right? And then, of course, there was prom. And I wanted to ask him to prom, guys. FYI, I was the type of girl who wasn't confident at that time. I changed a lot during college years later on, but when I was in high school and middle school, I was someone else, completely different. I was just too scared to do everything. So it took me forever to actually talk to someone that I really, really liked. And then, you know, prom season, everybody was asking everybody. And then I was like, you know what, this is the last year of high school. I should make a move. You know, I really like this guy. And I was like, Amy, you can do this. And I went home and I was talking to my brother. I was like, there's this dude that I really like. Should I ask him to prom? And my brother was like, yeah, go for it. So I went online and I Googled, like, I remember Googling cute prom proposals. Oh my gosh, why am I telling you this? It's so funny. I just like Googled it and then there was like a Snoopy, like a cute Snoopy cartoon that says like, would you go to prom with me? And I was like, oh my god, that is so cute. And I downloaded that and I printed it out. And I was like, I think we're missing something. Because you know how, like, a lot of couples that were already couples in high school, they do like fancy flowers and candles. But I don't even know if this guy even knows who I am. He does. But I don't even know if he's gonna say yes. So at that time, I was just so anxious. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna print this out and I'm gonna get something. So I went to like a dessert store, like a dessert shop, and I got like lollipops and some candies that I thought were cute. That they had ribbons on it. And I was like, oh my god, okay, okay. And then like the next Monday, I just like brought a Snoopy print in like a folder as well as the candies, and I knew he had like math class or something. So I waited outside of the classroom, like, but he never showed up. Like, he didn't know that I'll be there. I wanted to be a surprise, and it was between class to class. And I knew like the class after the math class, he had no class with me, so we could have the time to like talk about it or whatever that was. And then for some reasons that day I waited outside of the door, but nobody knew that I wanted to, ask him, because I didn't have everything out at the moment when other students were passing by. But he never showed up, and I was like, you know what, I'm not gonna wait. So I just left, and I left to like cafeteria, and I remember chatting him on, we use like Gmail chat, like GChat. Yep. And I asked him like, are you at school today? And he said, no, he's not at school. For some reason, he went on like a competition. I think it was MUN or something, or like a debate related thing. And I was like, okay, cool, have fun and have a good time, do well. Yeah, that's all I said. And he was like, what's up? Like, why'd you ask? And I was like, oh no, I was just wondering. I never told him that I wanted to ask him to prom. But then afterwards, I was like, you know what? I should like send him a proper email. I know as a writer, I'm like old soul inside. I wanted to send him an email. I wanted to write him an email, and I did. But in that email, I did not mention anything about a prom. Instead, I asked him, are you free on this specific section of the day, on like the specific date? And then he never replied to the email. He never replied to the email. And then I thought to myself, oh my gosh, he must knew. He must have known. He knew that I was going to ask him. He was going to reject me. And I had all these assumptions going on in my head. I was like, oh my god, he hates me. I was like, oh my god, this guy knows. But he didn't do anything at all. And I just never got a reply. And then time passed. I know. And then there was prom. There was someone else who tried to ask me to prom, but I was like, no. Sorry. I just didn't want to, let's just say I didn't want to have a slow dance with someone else other than a guy I liked. For some reason, that just was on my mind. And, prom passed, and after prom, there was final exam, and we took photos, graduation photos, and then there was this graduation tea party or something, where it was like a week or two before the actual high school graduation, and we were all there. So, everyone else in the grade, and I saw the guy in the crowd, and I just walked up to him and be like, let's get a photo together. And he was like, yeah, sure. And we took a photo. Afterwards, I just looked at him and I asked a question. I was like, did you get the email? And then he asked me, and he looked at me. He was like, what email? And my world crashed a little bit at that time. I was like, no, he didn't get the email. He didn't get it. And I was like, I sent you an email like the day you went to like, a different country for competition. And he said, oh, he never got the email. And I was like, how come? And he said, for some reason, the competition he was in, he was like always receiving emails and everything, like at the time during the competition. So probably it got spammed, and he looked over, didn't see it at all, and didn't go back to it. He never got my email. And I was like, okay, it's okay. And he was like, what was it about? And I was like, oh, I wanted to ask you when you were free. And he just looked at me, be like, and then? And I was like, oh, and I wanted to ask if you're like willing to go to prom with me. And he was like, like smiling slash laughing. He was just looking at me like, oh, yeah, like shocked, but like shy. I don't know how to describe. Like, I don't know. I feel like he just said, oh, like if you asked, I would have gone. And I said, okay, okay. And he asked me, did you go in the end? And I was like, no, I didn't go with anyone else. I didn't go with anyone. I just didn't go in the end. And I asked him, did you go? And he's like, he didn't go either. And at that moment, a little part of me was like, okay, yeah, he didn't go with other girls. That's a good thing. But, prom was over. And then it was like, countdown to graduation. And then, I got the photo. That's probably like the only photo we had. And then 2 weeks later was graduation, the day of graduation. I got photos with him and it was nice. And I thought that was the last day I was going to see him, in a short period of time. Because I knew he was going to East Coast. Let's just say that. So I don't mention his school or his name. Yeah, he was going to East Coast. And as you guys know, I went to the UW. I went to Seattle. So West Coast and East Coast. And he knew I was going to Seattle. And we were even talking about this, when we were holding graduation flowers. And he said, oh, I know you're going to UW, congrats. And I was like, yeah, like your school is amazing. You're going to have a good time there. And take care. That's all I said. And I went on like a graduation trip with my friends afterwards. And I got his message when I got home. Actually, I think 1 or 2 days after graduation or the day off. I don't quite remember the details. But then he chatted me and I was pretty surprised. He told me he was leaving to East Coast, a specific city there, and he was flying in like a couple of days. And I was like, oh, okay, safe flight. And he was like, so do you want to hang out? Do you want to like perhaps watch a movie with me or something? And I was like, what? What? I didn't expect that at all. I didn't expect him to reach out to have a conversation with me. I didn't expect him to actually just, casually be like, let's hang out, let's watch a movie. I don't know if that was a date, but then I knew I was really nervous and sad because I was already mentally ready to just say bye to this person. And then he was just there and telling me, like, hey, before I leave, let's do this. And of course, I said yes. So we went to the theater, we got lunch, and it was perfect. I felt like it meant a lot to me to have that time with him. It didn't matter if he liked me back at all anymore because, he was the one making this time for me. I already appreciated it a lot. I don't know what he was thinking, but I knew I really, really appreciated him for doing that. And I had a good time, and he probably did too. Hopefully he did. We had a good time talking about our ambitions and goals in college and what he wanted to study, what I want to study. And we were talking about dreams and things we want to do in college, things that he wanted to do in East Coast, and things that I wanted to do in Seattle. And throughout the movie, I was just sitting next to him. We didn't hold hands or anything. I thought it would have been awkward. I would have scared him away if I did. Honestly, I didn't have the guts to do anything at all. And he didn't either. We're really, really, really shy. I don't know. We were just kids. And we watched the movie. Everything was great. I remember there was like a kiss scene in the movie. That made us really awkward. Okay, well, after the movie, I remember we got lunch and a movie, and then he was trying to walk me to the station. And on like the escalator in the mall, I just like stared at him and I wanted to say it. And I told him, like, I've liked you for the past like 2 to 3 years. Yeah, like I liked you more than a friend. I just said that out loud. And he just said, like, and I didn't hear what he said afterwards, and I ran away. You guys are probably be like, what? The story sucks. Okay, just hold on, okay? I went down the escalator and it kind of like ran a little bit. So I never got to hear what he wanted to say, and I never saw him in the eyes when I said that. And I just like ran away. He caught up to me and he was just like, wait, hold on, hold on. And I was like, oh, has it always been obvious to you? And he was like, yeah, kind of. And he was just being like the shy guy who was just smiling. And I was just like, okay. And I switched the topic. Why did I do that? Yeah, I did. And then we just like walked to the station. It wasn't that far, anyways. It was kind of like awkward, but not like. I didn't even know. I couldn't even stare at his eyes. This is probably the first time I've ever confessed to anybody. He's like the only guy I've ever confessed to. Sorry, boyfriend, if you're listening. Yeah. And then I walked to the station with him. He did. And we were just standing on a platform. And then, like, the metro was here. Like, the train was here. Subway. And he looked at me and I looked at him. And he was leaning in for a hug. And I did too. So we hugged and he was like, keep in touch, okay? And I was like, okay. And then the door opened and I got on the metro. Door closed. I didn't turn back. And that was the last time I saw him ever in person. This was years and years ago. This was 6 years ago. Yep. And that was probably the longest / shortest hug, but longest memory. Yeah. Maybe some details were lost in between, but I remember having a really good time on the day with him. And I felt really weird. Like my heart just felt heavy. At the same time, I could let go and moved on. I could go to college and I could start a new chapter. That's what it felt like. And I'm glad that he took the time and gave me all these memories that I could look back to. So, if you're listening to this, I just want to thank you. And people ask me what happened afterwards, right? I remember on the day I just didn't talk to anybody. I didn't really talk to him afterwards on the day. I just went home and wrote down on the diary to myself, like if one day we're in the same time zone, I would use all my courage and I'll hold your hands. That's what I wrote. Well, I'm a writer, but I never told him that and I never did anything. So in the end, I went to Seattle and he went to East Coast. We did stay in touch, like what we said, in the first few months. We messaged each other, but time zone was really a problem. I just had a feeling like when there is like a lack of foundation in any relationship, let's say friends or more than friends, it was just impossible almost to start anything. So I still appreciated all the messages that he sent me on my birthdays and on the days when I felt really tired and stressed out and everything. So that gave me a lot of energy and motivation. And I realized he actually knew a lot about me. I was surprised to learn about it. He was just there all the time when I needed him. And I felt like we would have become really good friends if we were in the same school. I don't know, but it was all in the past. And I'm just doing this episode to tell a story, so it's okay. And I'm good now and he's good. I know I saw his Facebook updates and everything. I know he's doing well. That's great. So in the end, we probably all knew that nothing would have worked out. Even if we were just trying to be friends. Nothing was awkward after that hangout. Things didn't really change. What changed was he messaged me more, and I also replied. But no matter if it's a friendship or any relationship with anyone, without a firm foundation, it's really hard to get everything started. I think just by texting online is never enough. And we weren't even calling each other. We did, but not every single day. And we didn't call that often due to the time zone differences. It was just really hard. And I was having a hard time with all my classes too. And he was just really ambitious with his course. So that was the end of the story between this guy who meant a lot to me and my story. Later on, I started to have my own circle of friends in Seattle, and he had his probably, and we just decreased the amount of time we spent on each other and the contacts. And in the end, I got a boyfriend and he stayed away. We just stopped talking to each other. We never really met. We didn't stay in touch. We're no longer friends, but we're friends on Facebook. But we don't really like each other's stuffs. So I know it doesn't make sense if you were to be talking about like regrets or things, because I feel like I said what I wanted to say and I felt really great about it. I'm happy that I got all my courage out there and I put myself out there and I told him how I felt about him. The other day I saw this quote. This quote was in Mandarin, so the translation might be a little bit off because I translated it in my head like right now, instantly. The quote was like this: if you like someone, you should tell him or her. You tell him or her you like the person, it's not because you want an answer. The reason to tell someone that you really like them is for that someone to know and be comforted during some difficult times and to be reminded that he or she was loved, was liked by someone. And when I read that quote, it just felt right to me. And I'm glad that I confessed to this guy, and I'm glad that, it didn't work out, it's fine. But that was amazing, and it's a day that I'll never forget. It was just probably like 4 or 5 hours, but that 5 hours with him were probably one of the most memorable days I've ever had so far. And I appreciate that, and I'm glad that we had good time together, and I really wish the best for him. And I'm having a good time in my own life too, so I'm doing great. And the purpose of this episode is just for me to record down, and it's just a fun story to share with you. Yep. And people ask me like, oh my god, this is so sad. Why didn't you like confirm with him or something? And I was like, yeah, I should have. Because remember the days that I talked to myself thinking that, oh my god, he knew I was going to ask him, but he didn't know. He didn't even get the email, and I didn't even ask him in person. Yeah, I saw him at school, but I was just kind of like shy away. I would always shy away from, when we were to say hi, I'll be like hi. But I don't know, maybe I was just scared to ask him in person again. In the end, I ate the lollipops and candies. And the Snoopy print was like, would you go to prom with me? I never gave it to him. We didn't talk about prom afterwards. So, if you like someone, you should tell them, no matter what the reply is. And don't just assume. Don't just assume things are the way they are in your brain. Because that's like one of the biggest mistakes I've made as someone in a relationship or liking someone. So that was a story that's quite personal and vulnerable to share. But I really, really, really liked this person for like 3 years. That's crazy, right? Like 10th grade 11th grade, 12th grade. That's like sophomore year, junior year, senior year, and I've liked the same guy. It's crazy. I know, but it was good, and this is just a part of my memories. And you know, the amount of time when I liked this guy just brought me a lot. It gave me a lot to look forward to. I didn't need him to do anything. He was just being there, and I would just be happy. I would just be like, oh my god, I see this guy in this class, and everything about that class was amazing. Right? Used to be. You know, things used to be easier back then. I say it as if I'm like 42. But I still like to keep things simple. So, this is the end of today's story. Do you like this type of story sharing? If you do, let me know because I have more stories to share. And honestly, I think my life stories are pretty interesting. They're probably more interesting than my poetry. Oops. Honestly, you know, when I was trying to publish a book, my friends were like, "Oh my god, is it about your like life story? Are those like your relationship stories?" And I was like, "No, it's just my poetry and my poetry." And they're like, "Aw, you should one day write a book on all these people." And I was thinking to myself, I don't know if I have the courage to do that, or is that even allowed? I'm just trying to express my feelings and what I remember when I recall all these memories. And people I met were all great people in a way. They changed me and they made me who I am today. I've learned different lessons from them, and sometimes I'm the one to teach them life lesson, I feel like. And I always appreciate anyone, anybody in my life, and I try my best to make every relationship meaningful and sincere. So, if you're in my life, I really, really, really appreciate you existing. So, thank you. And go to sleep. This is the end of today's episode. And thanks again for tuning into MidnightO2. I'm your host, Amy. For story sharing, please reach me at ahcpoetry on Instagram or at gmail.com. And I'll see you next week. Good night.